So for 8.8, we are just taking logarithmic and exponential equations, and we are solving a system. So where do they intersect? And so we will get, there's three options of answers. There's where they never intersect. They're just going different ways. So we'd get no solution. They could intersect once, like at one ordered pair, and that's mostly the only ones that we will see. I would say like 99% of the time we'll see that. Or they could intersect at 2 points. But the examples that I've shown will be just at 1 point. So we're going to solve this system algebraically. What are the two ways that we learned how to solve a system, like last semester? Elimination and substitution. Good. Elimination and substitution. And for parts B and C, these are both optional, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I won't say you ever need to state the domain and range, so don't worry about that. Although you should know how to do that because we know how to do that from 8.1. So B and C are optional on the test, meaning like if you want to check your answer, I would only give you one of these on a calculator portion. So you could graph both of them and check your answer. The only caveat to that makes it a little more difficult is that you have to solve for y on both of the equations, and so sometimes that's a big hassle to do that, solving for y. And I also don't want your answer to have any decimals. So when you find the point of intersection on your calculator, you're going to be given decimals, and I don't want your answer to have any decimals. So go ahead and put no decimals for answers. So leave it as a fraction, or it might be like a natural log, or it might be a log in there. So looking at number 1, the first step is deciding what method am I going to use, elimination or substitution. So just looking at that, what do you think would be the easiest way to solve? Elimination. And these two are already eliminated. So once you've eliminated this, you add down. So this becomes 4e to the x, because you're just adding the exponents, the bases are the same, equals what? 8. Now I want to get x by itself. So when you're doing elimination or substitution, but mostly with elimination, you're getting rid of one variable. So I've gotten rid of the y's. Now I only have x's to deal with. I want to solve for x, and then I'm going to plug that back in and get the y value. So in order to solve for x, what would my next step be? Divide by 4. So then e to the x equals 2. And how can I get that x by itself? ln of 2 equals x. So remember, if I want to convert it to log form, it would be log base e of 2 equals x. But since we are grown-ups, we don't write it as log base e, we write it as ln. So this becomes ln of 2 equals x. So I have my x, but I need to plug it back in to solve for y. So once you get your x, plug in to one of these two equations for y, and my answer will be in an ordered pair. So under this no decimal, I want you to put answer in ordered pair. So I can choose either one. I'll just do the top one. And where I see this x, I'm going to put in ln of 2. So 2e ln of 2 plus 3e to the y equals 5. Now, how can I simplify this 2e to the ln of 2? what does that become? The E and the ln cancel out, right? These two cancel. What happens to this 2? It just jumps out front, so it's like 2 times 2. So it becomes 4 plus 3 e to the y equals 5. Now I want to move the 4 over. Not 4, sorry. 1. What would my next step be? Divide by 3. E to the y equals 1/3. Convert it to log form. So y equals ln of 1/3. So my final answer in ordered pair would be ln of 2, comma, ln of 1/3. So I'm going to show you, and if you want to be done with that and not even worry about graphing it, then you can. If you want to check your answer on Desmos, then you can just type it in on Desmos where it doesn't have to be y equals. So that might be an option as well. If you want to check it on the test with your calculator, I'm going to erase this. I'm going to show you how to solve for y. So you're just going to get both equations in y equals. So if I were to get the top one in y equals form, I'm going to move this over. 3 e to the y equals 5 minus 2 e to the x. Divide by 3. Then convert it to log form. So y equals ln of 5 minus 2 e to the x over 3. You graph that. Then you do it for the second equation. So negative 3 e to the y equals 3 minus 2 e to the x. Divide by negative 3. Yeah, this will be on the calculator part. So y equals ln 3 minus 2 e to the x over negative 3. So what I want you to do, if you're one of these people that wants to check it in your calculator, go to your calculator and graph both of these equations. Okay, so when you graph them, you should get these right here. I want to find the point of intersection. So menu, analyze graph, intersection, just scroll over, and you get 0.693 and negative 1.1. So once you get those two decimals, so my intersection was at 0.693 and negative 1.1. Like that was your point of intersection. I said I don't want your answer in decimals, but when you solved it, you got ln of 2 and ln of 1/3 as your xy. So if you go and just type those in the calculator, you get 0.693 and negative 1.1. Like your answers match up. So a way to check it is checking that your decimals, that your point of intersection is, matches up with your answer, but I want your answer to be ln 2, ln 1/3. If you don't want to do this and you don't want to check your answer, that is completely fine. Just trusting that you got the right answer. Okay, let's try number 2. So looking at this, we want to do elimination or substitution. Probably elimination. What could I do? Multiply by negative 2, the second equation. So I'm going to rewrite the top one. And I'm going to rewrite the bottom one. So negative 6 ln x minus 4 ln y equals negative 6. These will cancel. Add down, so negative 4 ln x equals 1. Ln of x equals negative 1/4. It's in log form. How do I convert it to exponential to get the x by itself? Switch it. So it becomes x equals what? E to the negative 1/4. Okay, so this is the part that is difficult, right? I could rewrite this as log base e of x equals negative 1/4. So the switching of exponential to log, log to exponential, I think that's what, how do we know when to do that? Basically, if we want to get x by itself, the only way I can do that is by switching it back to exponential form. So when I do that, the x and the 1/4 switch places, and the log goes away. So it becomes e to the negative 1/4 equals x. That's how I get this. But I don't want to leave it with a negative exponent, so I'm going to say x equals 1 over e to the 1/4. Because I don't like the negative exponent there.
But technically, you can have a negative exponent.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to change it.
No. So there's my x. Now I want to solve for y, so we can put it in the top equation. I would say that that's the hardest part, I guess, about it, is just solving for the y. So 2 ln of 1 over e to the 1/4 plus 4 ln y equals 7. Okay, so this right here can be solved before moving it over to the other side. So anytime you have an ln of e, what happens? I'm going to actually keep that, I'm going to keep this as the negative for right now. You don't have to. They cancel, right? This cancels. And what happens to this exponent? Goes out in the front. So then this becomes, so negative 1/4 times 2 becomes what? Negative 1/2.
So it's going to be on the calculator or no?
It will be on the calculator.
So if you could just plug in that equation, the 2 L.
You definitely could, yeah.
Okay. How do you type an L in? Is it LN?
There's an ln button. So 4 ln of y equals 7 plus 1/2. I'm going to change this 7 to be 14 over 2. So 4 ln y equals 15 over 2. I can divide by 4. Dividing by 4 is the same as multiplying by what? 1 over 4. And this is a case where I'd want to change it back to exponential form.
Wait, how did you get the 14 over 2 1/2?
I changed this 7 to be 14 over 2 so that I could get a common denominator because I wanted to move this over.
Why?
But if you typed it in your calculator as 7 plus 1/2, you'd get 15 over 2. Although, I would like you to know that you just need to make it a common denominator. Okay, now what do I do?
Indicated y is equal to e to the 15.
Yes. Y equals e to the 15 over 8. So my final answer is 1 over e to the 1/4, comma, e to the 15 over 8. You
Yeah,
could,
These aren't easy.
no.
Definitely
They
not.
challenge the brain.
No, I
Definitely.
don't
Well,
want
this whole
They
unit.
challenge
Okay, looking at this one, what would be something we'd want to use? Substitution. So, I'm going to substitute where I see a y, I'm going to put 2x. So, e to the 2x plus e to the x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, I'm about to show you something that I think is going to blow your mind. It's going to be crazy. You can, did you know that you can factor this?
No.
You can and you will factor
Can we
it.
use a quadratic formula?
No, no.
How would you use
So this is like saying, this is just a fancy way of saying x squared plus x minus 6. How would I factor that?
How is that x squared? How does that
It's,
multiply x
you
squared?
factor it like you're factoring this.
You would have x
Do you have to
plus
do that?
minus, right?
You'd have plus minus.
Wait, do you like the front or the back sign?
The back, the last sign.
Okay.
How would you factor this?
3 and 2.
3 and 2. So just x plus 3, x minus 2. That's how you would factor this. Now, the only difference in factoring this and factoring this is that instead of writing x here, it's just e to the x. I promise you it's not bad. It's not bad. Yes.
This is a lot of information.
Ah.
A lot of information.
No, it's not. You're okay.
Be so long.
So then when you're solving, you're setting each one inside equal to 0. So e to the x equals negative 3 and e to the x equals 2.
Wait, why is it glowing?
I don't know. I don't know why everyone was wrong about that. It's
It's because of the next step after that.
What's the next step?
you can't have a negative log, right? So which answer would I go ahead and get rid of?
2, 3, negative.
The negative 3.
Wait, what?
You can't, so if I were to put this into log form, it would be ln of negative 3 equals x. You can't have that.
Oh, okay.
But I can have ln of 2. But plugging in back in for y makes life a lot easier because now I'm just going to plug it into the second one. So y equals 2 ln of 2. I'm just plugging it in right here.
Oh.
And then would you move the 2 to the front?
So you could do, I would accept 2 ln of 2, or you could condense it and it would become 2 squared, which is ln of 4.
How the x be to ln? Oh, the x is ln too.
hmm
But it can also be 2 ln 2.
Yeah, I would accept either. Or you could say ln 2, ln 4. Either one. I would accept either answer. Okay, so what I did is I substituted for y. So that was my first step. And you get log, and it's base 10 because nothing is there. So you add in a 10 for the base. This is just like 8.6 now. Now we're just solving. So if you have a log on one side, step 1 is to condense. You might want to write that down. 8.6, we did this. Step 1 is to condense. Step 2 is to put in exponential form. And then most likely you'll factor and solve. That's usually step 3. So I condensed by, since there's a plus sign in between, that means you do what to the insides? You multiply them. So 2x squared plus x Now I have a log on one side, I have a number on the other, so I need to convert to exponential. So it becomes 10 to the first power equals 2x squared plus x. Factor and solve. So I move the 10 over. I factored that. You get 2x plus 5 and x minus 2. Solve both of them. You get a negative 5 halves and you get a positive 2. The negative 5 halves does not work because it's negative on the inside. Yes.
Like, I thought it was just, I'd move it, I'd move the 10, you, like, have to move the 10 to the other side, because it's, like, kind of easy to tell, like, that it's 2.
By
Yeah, I
guessing
thought-
and checking. It just may not always work out that way, but it did in that case.
I thought it was easy.
But most likely you'll need to factor it and solve it.
Uh,
And then once you get your 2, you plug it back in. It's really easy to plug back in on this type of problem because you can use the second formula, which is the 2 times 2 plus 1, this one right here, to get 5. So anytime you have two exponentials or like two e's, the first step in any type of problem where you see two e's together is converting them both to natural log or logarithmic form, because then it's easier. So if I wanted to convert it to logarithmic form, then all you do is you rewrite it by, so if I want to write it in logarithmic form, what would that look like? X plus y equals ln of 4.
Do you have to do that?
I would suggest it. So then that would mean the second one would be what? It's kind of like when you have the way that I visualize it is if I take the ln of both sides, this cancels.
Oh yeah.
That's the way that I visualize it. Now I can use what method? Elimination. The y's are already going to cancel. So 3x equals, if I'm adding two ln's, like ln 4 plus ln 2, how does that get condensed? Ln of 8.
What?
I'm sorry, it would. Okay. How?
Because if you're condensing, they have the same base, like we just did in the last problem. What did we do when they were added together? We multiplied them. Same thing. So if you're just condensing this, then you're multiplying. So x equals ln of 8 over 3. I would let you leave it like that, but
No.
if I were to take it one step further, this is like saying 1/3 ln of 8.
I'm not even gonna write that. Yeah.
8 to the 1/3 power is what? 2. I would accept ln of 8 over 3.
Oh yeah, definitely doing that.
Equals ln2. That's what I got. I got
what I
two.
got.
I got 2 without switching anything out of it.
Wait, I got Ellen.
I got 2 that originally.
Oh my
Okay,
word.
So can I just show you how much easier that could have been?
That's what I did.
Is that what hard thing I'm saying?
Okay,
I
let's
said
see
I
what
would
you
say
did.
8.
You could have just made it 6. And then you
Plus-
could just divide
Yes,
it.
you could have just made it 6 and then divide by 3. You get is 2. Yeah, that's what I did.
No way.
Yes.
Yes way.
What did you do?
If
Oh,
you didn't
I
have
had
4
4
and 2,
two.
which is the answer.
Just
Yeah.
added 4 and 2 instead of multiplying.
Like e to the 3x equals 6.
Yeah.
Wait, that's what I did. And I got Ellen too.
Ooh.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You divide by 3.
Wow.
Wow.
See how simple it can be, everyone.
I did that
Math. Yeah.
That right there is called
Long work again.
math.
Well, hold on.
Was that supposed to copy?
I got the same answer. That is 2 that is 2 in a row.
But that doesn't. So that way did not work. I'm gonna clarify that on the video because I think it might confuse people. But you can't split this up to be e to the x plus e to the y, e to the negative y, e to the 2x. Like you can't, and then these cancel. That cannot happen because when you have two variables that are to a power, you can't split them up if they're separated by a plus sign. It's only if they're multiplied by each other. So the question was, though, how do I know that this can go any further? So if it's like having a power, if you're condensing it and you have a coefficient in front, and you have a number in front, the way to condense it is by bringing it to the top and it becoming a power.
So dividing by 3 is the same as multiplying by 1/3.
Yes, or raising it to the 1/3 power.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to simplify this further, I just rewrote it as 1/3 ln of 8.
Yeah.
It becomes, like to condense it, it comes to the top. And it's like raising 8 to the 1/3 power, which then becomes 2. Then if I want to solve for my y, I'm going to plug it back in. So I can plug it into, let's do the top one. So e to the ln of 2 plus y equals 4. Actually, no, I'm just going to plug it into the one that we already solved right here. So ln of 2 plus y equals ln of 4. So y equals, I plugged it into this one right here. ln 4 minus ln 2. How do I condense it if there's a minus sign?
Divide.
Divide.
Y equals ln.
4 over 2, y equals ln 2. So my final answer would be ln 2, ln 2.